Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cultivate. And you're in for a treat this morning. And it's my pleasure to welcome CEO of Pro Unlimited, Kevin Akeroyd, as our guest. And in the short time that's ever since he has taken helm at Pro, he's actually been on a torrid pace to transform the contingent workforce. So, Kevin, before we get into the details, you had another very exciting announcement last week. Tell us about the announcement you all made.
We did. Thanks for asking. The company announced that it was acquired by EQT, which, for those of you who aren't familiar with the name, is a European based private equity firm. They are the seventh largest private equity firm in the world and did what I will call a very major capital transformation into the company to acquire the majority rights for it. So it's very exciting for us. They're global, they are very, very large, they're incredibly excited and buy in completely to this contingent workforce management platform vision that we built, and they just want to invest in us and let us go faster organically on the partnership front, like you and I enjoyed, Kamal, and certainly on the acquisition front. So nothing's really changed other than a very big financial partner with tons of conviction around our vision and the ability to lean in even faster and invest in it even more. So we're excited.
Fantastic. Congratulations to you and
Thank
the
you.
team. I know you've been busy making changes very rapidly.
Yeah.
So, your team has actually been busy talking to all your clients about bringing the Eightfold platform
Yes.
and how it can actually transform the contingent workforce side.
Mhm.
So, what's the reception been so far?
The reception has been phenomenal, Kamal, on a couple levels. I will say this: the brand, and I hope this doesn't come across as too congratulatory, Kamal, but you folks have done such an amazing job of branding who and what you are and what you stand for and why you're important. So the association with just somebody that's carved that out is very non-trivial. I hope you don't mind me sharing that directly, but it really has been helpful because it tells the industry that we're aligning with the right people, with the right mission, right, and the right goal around how we're going to go deploy this. So we love that. That's been positively received in a big way. Pro's a little bit older than Eightfold, right? We've been around for 25, 30 years. I've been trying to pull off a very aggressive technology and data, transformation, as you mentioned. The ability to partner with Eightfold and to embed some of the platform into our contingent workforce management solutions, like superior candidate matching, like our Pro Unites diversity and inclusion functionality, and probably most importantly, what I mentioned when I was speaking earlier, our Direct Source Pro application, where clients are able to go direct to talent and workers rather than bypass or go through staffing agencies or professional services firms, and they have better relationships, pay better, and get a lot of cost out of the system. Those are probably the first four areas that I've seen just a major impact just in the last couple of months. And Kamal, as you know, we have just hit the 20 client mark. So something that launched in April. Now we're literally 2 months later, and we already have 20 Fortune 1000 clients on the joint Eightfold Pro Direct Source Pro clients. So I've been doing software a long time. I don't normally see 20 clients, especially 20 Fortune 1000 clients. They're large. It's the Apples, it's the Goldman Sachs, it's the Cignas, it's the ServiceNow. So it's not small companies, it's big companies with big needs and big dollars, and they're super excited to trust the solution that you and I have built together. So partnership is off to a great start, and we love it.
Thank you. I really admire your leadership and how fast you're actually making changes.
Mm,
And I think, as with everything, timing couldn't be better because I think the
great.
whole economy is going to come out of this COVID induced slump with the contingent hiring.
I
So,
agree.
great timing.
And as you know, Kamal, the most of the functions, right, CRM or ERP or procurement or even HCM on the full-time employee side, have all been a lot more tech enabled, right? And now is the time to catch contingent workforce management up with the same suites of services, data analytics, and enabling platforms that the clients are using, everywhere else. So that's also really exciting. The timing is incredibly good. The strategic importance of what we do to the clients is really good. And to be the first mover to roll in said platform to help people go from a bunch of tiny little non-integrated partners to a real enabling platform, timing couldn't be any better on that front too. So I agree with you, Kamal. the macro environment and the overall timing is perfect timing for what Pro has been doing the last year, because we're coming into something that is heavily in demand rather than having to go convince customers they've got a problem. No, they know they've got a problem. They're like, okay, finally somebody solved for it for us. So exciting times.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Really enjoyed your perspective earlier as well. And I do think the right towards the contingent workforce and how that becomes basically part of the core fabric for
Yes.
every organization, not just
Yes.
some of the largest ones. So good luck to your continued success and really enjoying our partnership together.
Kamal, as are we. We absolutely love the partnership, and it's an honor to actually be invited to come do this with you for Cultivate. So thank you very much. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where you are in the world. My name is Kevin Akeroyd. I am the CEO of Pro Unlimited. We are a strategic partner to Eightfold. They're an incredibly important part to us. So as such, I'm honored to get to meet and speak to all of you today. I'm looking forward to sharing a topic that we know a lot about and is becoming an important part in the overall HR tech world, and that is contingent workforce, or what I call the other 50% of the workforce. A few material trends in the contingent workforce space that are of note. First off, it's not just blue collar, it's not just gig anymore. It is all of the white collar, specialty skilled, professional, hard to find talent. So it's all talent. It is over 45% of the global workforce right now. And most people, no matter who you read, the third party experts, the consultants, the researchers, basically say that next year, the contingent workforce is going to be over half of all workforce. So the amount of contingent workers will be larger than the amount of full-time employees, which is pretty staggering. As a result, this is no longer burst capacity or staffing up in the holidays or into the warehouse. It's not up and down. This is literally part of a strategic war for talent. I now have to actually go compete on FTE and in talent, and I'm guiding and increasing my contingent workflow percentage by role, by country, by market, by skill, just like I do full-time employees, which is great. The contingent spend for the corporations is over $5 trillion globally, and it's growing aggressively, so it is a big market for the enterprise to deal with. This category is finally getting its tech, data, and intelligence enablement. It's finally happening here. It's happened in ERP, it's happened in CRM, it's happened in HCM. Hasn't happened here in contingent workforce management, but that's rapidly changing, and companies like us are right in the middle of it with our partnership with Eightfold. Direct sourcing is another huge topic. For the last 20 or 30 years, if I'm a company and I wanted to go get contingent or freelance or individual contributor workers, I went to a staffing agency or a professional services firm. And if I was a worker, same thing. I'd have to go establish relationships with that professional service firm or that staffing agency. Now, the talent with all the digital networks and social networks and talent clouds can go straight to the employer, and the employer can bypass the third party and go straight to the employee. That's called direct sourcing in this industry. And basically, it's going to shift about $1.5 trillion of that spend. It's going to shift it out of the middleman or the middle person called the staffing agency. And the employer is going to actually be able to pay the worker even more, because that 25% of the entire cost can go back to the employer or go back to the worker. And most of them are choosing to actually go put it for the worker. So incredibly good for the worker, incredibly good for the company. And we're going to see 25 to 40% of contingent actually go direct sourcing rather than through a third party over the next 3 years. So professional services, what comes through E&Y or PwC or Accenture, Deloitte, McKinsey, for the most part, those spends have been allowed to live outside these contingent workforce management programs. They're too big. There's too much cost associated with them. They're literally earnings per share moving cost elimination in a lot of the companies. So now that it has big visibility at the CFO and CPO level, those are actually being brought in. That's going to bring in another $1 trillion+ of spend in contingent workforce management. The candidates themselves are got to be treated like employees. They're very skilled, got great backgrounds. They're exactly what everybody wants, and they're going to be selective about what they take. They want to take a job, go skiing for 3 months, come back, and then have everybody bid for her services again. That's tens of millions of digital native specialty skill workers, especially in some of the technical and medical and financial fields that we are going to have to actually address, and we're going to have to actually treat them with candidate contingent experience, just the way we've been treating our employees with employee experience for the last 20 years. And then finally, diversity, equity, and inclusion is every bit as important, if not more important, here on the contingent side of the world, not just the FTE side of the world. So those are some of the topics I wanted to bring in today, and I'm going to deep dive into a little bit of each one of them. So as I mentioned, it's over half the workforce. It's already 43% of the workforce. It's going to be over 50% in 2022. It has popped back way faster than full-time employment rates in most countries, definitely here in the United States. The growth rate of contingent workforce management, i.e. the number of workers that are being hired, is already past 20% higher than pre-COVID levels. So literally 1 year later, 20% plus in the COVID hiring, post-COVID era hiring, maybe from 4.5 to 6-ish, on the FTE side. So this is absolutely fueling the recovery. And this is exactly where the corporations are going to satisfy a large majority of their needs is this contingent workforce. As I mentioned, it's not just the blue collar warehouse or travel or hospitality. It's not just the Uber, DoorDash, Airbnb, gig. This is literally my developers, my IT, my security, my finance, my marketing, my operations. This is across the entire org chart, and it is the very highest skilled white collar workers all the way up the org. So it's kind of taking over everything. And finally, corporations have been the early adopters here. You're starting to see government, education, and some of the other fields like nonprofit are adopting too, not just corporate and commercial. So this is wide, it's prolific, and it literally is going to be over the entire workforce, over half of the entire workforce starting next year. Portfolio management was the second comment I made. And again, this for a long time has just been, okay, I've got a project, I've got to staff up for it, or I've got a seasonality, right? A holiday or a big event, or I've got a big burst of work I've got to go do for this, and this. And that's basically been staff augmentation for the last 30 years. Now, if I'm a large, Fortune 50 tech company, I'm saying I've got 50,000 tech jobs that are full-time. I've got 30,000 contingent workers. I actually want to flip that. The next couple of years, I actually want it to be 30 or 40% full-time employees, 50 or 60% contingent for all of the flexibility, nimbleness, financial agility, ability to go up and down, etc. So this is now literally part of strategic talent planning on a go-forward basis rather than just filling in burst capacity when I need it. It literally is now at the C-suite. The C-suite is starting to actually get this into a core competency. There has been talent management on the full-time employee side. This is now creeping into the exact same talent management side by side, all the way up to the C-level and the board. Maturity curves are just getting started. The corporations and we as a company, we work with 200 of the Fortune 1000. So we work with the biggest and the most sophisticated companies in the world. But even they are much farther behind than their procurement or their HCM or their ERP implementations. So we are, in a situation where very sophisticated clients are still actually climbing the maturity curve so they can get to the same level of maturity over here in contingent workforce than they are in FTE, HCM, and some of the other surroundings. And where I go to source, I cannot source in radiuses near my buildings anymore, my headquarters or my offices. I've got to not only resource remote anywhere, right, not doing it in my offices, and I've actually got to extend that to global. Now that all of the major hires and most of the big vertical industries are after that exact same limited talent pool, if I don't figure out how to actually go win the war for talent, remote, contingent, anywhere in the world, instead of local, full-time in my offices, I simply will not win this portfolio management, and I'm going to start losing the war for talent. So a little bit more on that. Again, big share moving opportunity, literally $5 trillion in global spend and growing double digits. This is billions of dollars on most large enterprises' P&Ls, and it is widely acknowledged that in this contingent space, there is anywhere between 20 and 40% waste. Basically, I'm paying $320 an hour for a junior IT person that I should be paying $150 an hour for, and that's right across the entire industry. So the chief procurement officer and the chief financial officer realize that that is huge double-digit waste and a big multi-billion-dollar spend, and is tied directly to shareholder value because that is literally earnings per share moving cost reduction inside my organization. While winning a war for talent, I've also got earning per share ability to go take cost out of the system, which is exciting. We're definitely seeing, based on that this doesn't just live in HR now. It is co-owned by HR and procurement. They basically co-own this in most of the organizations there. Sometimes it's even procurement is the ultimate owner with HR being a participant. Sometimes it's HR, the ultimate owner, with procurement being a participant. But both of them are heavily involved, and that's a new thing that speaks to just how important the dollars and how large the savings opportunity is as to why you're going to see them face to face with each other. And then finally, I get the ratio of maybe I pay a little bit more, but I can go up and down as far as the number of heads I need. I can be very flexible. I've got the agility, and this is something that's very, very good for my company. COVID kind of demonstrated that. It didn't kill us. As a matter of fact, it was a forcing mechanism, and now most organizations are realizing, yeah, there is a lot of financial stability, there's a lot of freedom, there's a lot of flexibility. I've been thriving the last year or 15 months operating in this mode. I can thrive permanently, so we're going to continue to see that cost speed optimization raise the level of contingent workforce. And then finally, for the convert to perm, it's not like companies are not going to be hiring full-time employees. Of course they are. Bringing in those really high-end contingent workers, watching the caliber of their work, seeing who I really, really like, that continues to be one of the biggest conversions of full-time employees. So if I really like Sally, she's a fantastic JavaScript developer. She's worked on 3 projects now. She's one of the best coders we've ever seen. Her in the contingent workforce pool can be a candidate and be leveraged up into the FTE side too. So not only is contingent, kind of growing faster and taking over half of the FTE, contingent is also feeding the FTE as one of the best farm systems or development clubs inside the organization. So very impactful for the corporate P&L. The tech enablement is finally here. Again, this industry called contingent workforce management has had a few software applications, but for the most part, it hasn't gone through that tech data and integration and transformation or enablement the way the peers that I keep mentioning like HCM or ERP do. And they are just in the middle. We are just in the middle of going from a lot of fragmented point solutions that do one little piece. So if I'm a large enterprise, I might be working with 10 different vendors, all that do a little piece of all that I need, none of them integrated. And that's just in North America. I've got another 4 in Europe, and I've got another 7, in Japan. So I, as a big enterprise, am doing nothing but procuring, vendor onboarding, vendor management, and then trying to deal with the people process and systems integrations across 10 vendors and into my complicated enterprise environment. And I'm doing that for 2 or 3 years rather than driving business outcomes, getting that cost out of my P&L and winning the war for talent. So the hop from point solutions to platform is mission critical. It's what's happened everywhere else in our corporations that we sell to, and it's certainly happening now in contingent workforce. Along with that, a level of analytics and intelligence is finally starting to be applied. So not just market rates, for instance, but likelihood to hire, trending on attrition, trending on redeployment, trending on convert to perm, you name it. If I'm finally deploying analytics and being predictive about this rather than just automating what people used to do when they're sorting through resumes, we get a huge benefit there. And then on data fuels everything. The industry has had very large incumbents like Aon Radford or Mercer or PayScale, PayFactor, or Salary.com. Hundreds of millions of dollars are spent by the enterprise for data to edify what I should be paying a full-time salary employee, which is a fantastic value prop. That hasn't really existed for the other 50% of the workforce that is contingent. None of the data providers over here in FTE provide contingent, both in staff aug and in SOW data. Pro has now rolled that out because it is mission critical and is as important to use data right here on the contingent side as it has been for the last 20 years to use data over here on the FTE side. So that's exciting because now the industry is going data driven with analytics into a tech platform that can enable their businesses, and that's the flywheel, and the industry's finally in it. A couple more notes here. With you got the incredible data asset, and everybody that works for Eightfold certainly knows this. The best and largest, most highly curated, highest quality data asset in the world not only is necessary for a lot of the applications, but it is how you make machine-based learning really work well, and really work fast. So by sitting on top of the data ocean that we do, we're able to actually go accelerate not only the applications I talked about, but the machine-based learning and how to apply it right to the contingent side of the house rather than just the full-time side of the house, and ultimately get to real artificial intelligence rather than fake artificial intelligence. Another hallmark of our partnership here with Eightfold is they've certainly been an incredible accelerant for us in that area to go ML and AI. And then finally, the interoperability and the integration. We are a platform now. We have to actually get deeply integrated into the Workdays and the HCMs, into the Oracles and SAPs, ERPs, into the Coupas and Arebas for procurement, into the Tableaus and Power BIs for data. So platforms to point solutions, software services, analytics, and data, and then a high level of interoperability into the other enterprise systems that surround contingent workforce. So when I say tech enablement is finally here, this is a little bit of detail about the tech enablement that is going on here inside the contingent workforce management industry. So I mentioned direct sourcing. I'm going to hit on that again because it's probably the single biggest trend that is happening out there, where the large Global 2000 organizations absolutely want to bypass the middle layer and go direct to Sally the talent or Kevin the talent. We, a couple hundred of the Fortune 1000, I said, whether it is a prospect, a partner, or the 200 of the Fortune 1000 that work with our company, almost universally, people are saying, well, I want to go from 25% contingent to 50% contingent, overall. And then within that contingent, that half that's contingent, I want 25 to 35% of that to be able to source it directly as my brand, rather than continue to rely on the staffing agency or the professional services firm. So that is a massive move. It is underfoot. People are tackling it very aggressively right now, and we should start to see that really change the landscape. Again, based on the magnitude. When you do that, again, there's 20 to 50% cost optimization by provider, by benchmark, by market, by skill set. So applying data and applying analytics directly at the opportunity for direct sourcing is literally driving 20 to 50% of headcount cost out of these staffing agency or professional services engagements. So it's incredibly non-trivial impact for the customer. They definitely are having to reskill. Our clients need the notion of talent portfolio management, contingent workforce competencies, skill sets, people that understand the processes, et cetera. So you are definitely seeing a reskilling inside the enterprise corporation to be able to go do 25% to 50% in contingent. And then of that 50%, 25% of that needs to be direct. So all kinds of worker experience, curation, and other skill sets are rapidly being hired into these enterprise organizations so they can actually execute against these direct sourcing goals. And once again, that is something that historically people have needed. I need an MSP, I need a curator, I need a direct sourcing app, I need a VMS app, I need an analytics app, I need a data source, and I need an employee of record. For the last 25 years, people have had to actually stitch together at least 7 vendors, non-integrated, to try to pull off direct sourcing. So with the advent of some corporations like Pro being one of them, introducing those Pro platforms again to be able to actually do direct sourcing soup to nuts in one suite inside the platform, you will start to see that, not just with us, but with other people, because I want that enabling platform to be able to pull this goal off. So look for direct sourcing to be a major, major trend in all of your organizations as you're listening. SOW up next. As I mentioned, it's a couple $1 trillion in SOW spend. Those have the largest waste and the biggest talent per dollar discrepancies. It is called strategic sourcing for the most part. Strategic sourcing is historically sat outside of contingent workforce management platforms. It is now rapidly being brought into them. The IT and tech spends with the very large advisory and integration firms, and the marketing, right, with the large agency spends or MSP, marketing services providers. Those are the two that are actually starting to get out of independent SOW into contingent workforce management platforms rapidly. All the spend will come eventually, but those are the spends that are kind of coming in if you're a Global 2000 organization right now. So it's concentrated, it's identifiable, it's recognizable, and it's visible enough that people are aware. And the CPO, Chief Procurement Officer, and the CFO, here are really driving this probably even more than the CHRO, because CHRO has really not been that involved in hiring Accenture or Deloitte, or hiring Publicis or WPP, or hiring Ernst & Young or PwC. So in this situation, this really is a procurement or finance run initiative, but it is impacting in a big way. So look for the SOW world to enter the traditional staffing augmentation world as well. Candidate worker experience was one of the final points I made. This is awfully important too. That critical experience management of that contingent worker who's only project based, but she is an elite, IT or an elite developer. She is as particular about how her experience is with you, from an engagement, from a focus, from a targeted relevance of opportunities being brought to her, ongoing communications, you name it, putting in her preference, writing a gamification system where she's got higher ranking and the hiring managers will know that she's a top person when they want to go hire in again. All these things are contingent workforce managed experience, and they're extremely important. And the same attributes of employee experience that worked in the FTE world might not apply. For instance, companies here in the Bay Area, 7-star restaurants in the basement or in the lobby of the building, awesome, not right? Daycare and meditation lounges in every floor in the office buildings, incredible. The buses, the double-decker luxury buses with Wi-Fi that'll take you to the campus and keep you either taking your nap or Wi-Fi enabled so you can catch up on work and you're not behind the wheel. Those are just a good examples of things that were kind of the employer brand and managed to make an amazing full-time employee experience, and they won the war for talent in a long time. Now in a contingent non-full-time world where everybody's remote and I'm global, rather than everybody's in the office full-time local in California, none of those branding experiences or none of that customer experience applies over here to the contingent workforce. So it's not just a tech and data enablement. It's not just a strategy element. It's literally a how do I go get world-class in the contingent workforce experience the way I've tried to go get world-class in my FTEs. So again, these changes in the worker cohorts, their mindsets, their expectations, I call them digital natives. They just what they expect, right? What we need to do to actually capture their attention, we need to keep them engaged, stimulated, etc. We just need to realize that this younger digitally native workforce that is taking all the marketing and technology and coding and IT jobs, that we really calibrate not only on contingent versus FTE, but the new cohorts that are starting to build the vast majority of the contingent workforce. And then finally, the employer brands, kind of back to that employer experience, I as a brand need to continue to work on, hey, why would the next 1,000 very high-end IT contractors want to come work to my brand rather than competitor A, competitor B, or competitor C? So you'll see a lot of contingent employer branding, just like you saw a lot of FTE employer branding going forward. And then diversity, equity, and inclusion. D&I is a must to satisfy the contingent workforce management talent demand. You just literally cannot do it without D&I. It's a physical impossibility. It's just a numbers game, which is interesting. The goals and the targets that are being set around DE&I in the full-time employee world are being set as aggressively over here in the contingent workforce. So whatever my targets are, I'm going to marry them, and I'm going to insist that my contingent workforce marries what I'm doing in my full-time workforce to go holistically tackle those D&I goals. In addition to the CIO, the CHRO, and the Chief Procurement Officer being around the table as companies look at enterprise contingent workforce management, very often now the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer or the Chief Diversity Officer is coming in, and there's actually a fourth seat at the table because all the way to a C-level or board level, it's that important that the diversity officer's goals are met by the tech implementations the CI is doing and the strategic programs that HR and procurement are rolling out. So you'll see a lot more of that as well. A regulatory horizon is going to be material. Some of you have probably even seen, if you live locally here on the West Coast, where some local legislation that, hey, if you're a public company board, you must have diverse, board members, at least this many. That's a good example of something that happened last year. And our opinion is that you're going to start seeing a lot more scrutiny and a lot more regulation around this as a forcing mechanism, and not just in the United States, but we think this is going to start happening on a global level. So being ready for it, even from that standpoint, is really important. And another thing, the analytics, the data, the prediction, the tech, the automation, it's intertwined into an oral platform, but you do need discrete analytics, data, and technology to go after D&I specifically if you want to really embed it in your program. And then finally, our opinion is that DE&I is just flat out good, smart business. Even if none of these forcing mechanisms exist, it's just better ways to run the company, more diverse, wider aptitude, better decision making, and a more well-rounded worldview and a better strategy. The more and more diverse we get, so very, very important in the contingent workforce management as well. And we basically say that we partner with minority-owned businesses. That's a huge piece, but it can't stop there. Right, we need to get into supplier diversity. So thousands of staffing agencies or thousands of professional services firms, they're driving diversity. It's got to get down into the candidate level, the actual worker themselves, and driving D&I goals there. It's got to be baked in what we call cultural inclusion. I've got to have training, I've got to have best practices, I've got to have measurement, I've got to have enablement, I've got to have certifications. I've literally got to be a thought leader and an action leader. All that, is what we call cultural inclusion to really make this stick. And then, as I mentioned, you do need to have the tech, the data, and the analytics platform to pull it off holistically, just like you are on your full-time employee side. So that was it as far as the PowerPoint presentation. I've enjoyed giving you a little bit of an update on contingent workforce management. Hope it was helpful, and thanks again for inviting me to Cultivate.